Hello. This story is about a 7-year-old boy that was playing a game of chess with not another human, but a robot. It's a true story that took place in a Russian chess open in 2021. The game gathered a lot of interest with the boy playing a robot. The game had a lot of spectators watching and enjoying the game, until something very frightening happened. The boy rushed the robot in a certain move, and the robot did not like to be rushed, as it needed time to choose a move. It apparently had mistaken the boy's finger for a chess piece and broke his fingers. By the time the crowd could grab the robot off the boy's hand, his fingers had already been fractured. The boy continued to play the game with his hand in a sling. The management said that the robot was given to them by a loan, and they had no control over it. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Joshua was an elderly farmer who was living in rural Ireland. He was feeling very isolated on the farm since his only daughter moved to America, where she was working in a rest home in Texas. One day he had an idea while walking around his farm. He had noticed really nice wood to use to carve walking sticks to make and send to his daughter as a surprise. The only problem was that where the wood was, it was a fairy fort. Legend had it that folktales associated with fairy forts typically relate a curse or retribution enacted upon those who would disturb or destroy the structures. As he carved the wood into the sticks, he prayed that nothing would happen him doing so. After he had about 20 sticks made, he sent them over to his daughter as a gift. His daughter Sharon was working in a rest home, but lost her job 6 months ago, but didn't want to tell her dad. She had a problem with drugs that was spiraling more and more out of control. She was popping the strongest painkillers and also using crystal meth. She didn't want to tell her dad how much of a mess her life was in. She sat down in her trailer, worrying about paying back a loan shark $10,000 that she got off him for a loan. She got the loan to pay off a local drug dealer that she knew didn't mess around. If she hadn't gotten the money, she would have been killed, and if she can't pay back the loan shark, she knew she would be killed also. But she thanked God she was able to get a loan of $10,000 to get the drug dealer off her back at least. One day her dad's walking sticks arrived, and she felt a pang of guilt and pain that he went through all that trouble of carving walking sticks for the residents of the rest home he thought she still was working in. She had put the $10,000 in the bank for safekeeping until the drug dealer called for it in a few days, as it was way too dangerous around her neck of the woods to keep that much cash in her trailer. She wrote out a check and sent it to her dad. Her dad was delighted to cash the check for $10,000. He rang her to thank her, and she froze and then said, "Dad, I am so sorry, that check was meant to have been for $10, not $10,000. Then the man that was looking at Joshua counting the money behind him ran up and hit him in the head and grabbed his wallet. He saw him put all the money in. That night the drug dealer arrived, and Susan told him the story. The drug dealer started laughing and said, Do you think I'm stupid? You just ran out of chances, bitch." Then he shot Susan dead. Joshua found out about her death a few days later and regretted ever stepping foot inside the fairy fort, knowing it was the fairy fort that made everything go wrong. Barry woke up in a room with no memory of how he got there. His joints ached and he felt strange. He saw a camera up in the wall, staring right at him. Then suddenly, two men walked into the room. One man said, "Hello, Barry. Relax. You will be given a full explanation why you're here in just a short time, but there are a few things you need to sort out yourself first. You need to just relax and try your best to remember anything you can that has happened to you before you woke up today. It doesn't have to be recent. Anything at all." Barry felt the question bizarre and was about to say something when he felt kind of dizzy, and suddenly he blanked out. As he did, he had a memory of a person speaking, but he could not make out who it was. He tried his best to look at the face, hoping he could make out the features, but it was no good. The face was just a blur. When he snapped out of his daze, the man spoke to him again. "Did you remember anything, Barry? It is very, very important that you remember anything at all before we fill you in." Barry said, "What am I doing in this room? Who are ye? What do ye want with me?" The man spoke again. "Barry, we will give you all the answers to that in a very short time, but for now, we really need you to remember anything at all, because it is vital you do before we give you the information you were requesting." Barry could feel himself get dizzy again, and once again he could see the face, but it was just a blur still. He wondered who the person was, knowing that's probably what the weird man is asking him. Who is that person that is so blurry to him? It was driving him crazy. When he snapped out of his daydream again, the man asked, "Do you remember anything, Barry? What is it you see when you black out?" Barry said, "I see a face, but it's a blur. I can't make out who it is." The other man spoke this time. "You're doing great, Barry, but before we tell you what is happening, you need to see that face. You're not ready to hear the truth until you do." Suddenly Barry blacked out again, and he could see a person walking towards him, but the person was still a blur, until suddenly the blur became clear, and he was looking at the face, and realized he was looking at himself. He said to the men, "It's me. That person who was a blur is me." The man said, "That's good, Barry. You're in a good state when you realize that is you. Barry, you paid a large amount of money in the year 2020 to a secret government organization to do to you what is happening right now. And I have all the paperwork to show you that you've given your full consent. You will get a shock when I'm about to tell you what I'm about to tell you, but believe me, we are only doing what you paid for. The year is 2220. You were 200 years into the future from when you were frozen, and the information was passed down generations to you beyond frozen in the year 2220. Barry, you nearly didn't make it, but the problem is, Barry, no one else has except us and maybe 100 more. The world experienced an apocalypse after World War III happened just a few months after you were frozen in the year 2020. We had this bunker specially built, and the elite in the government survived also. The world is no longer like it was, Barry. We had to start again. I am sorry you woke up to a world like this. They didn't get frozen, Barry. You are the only one who did get frozen. That's the one thing I was trying to figure out. But the other survivors, well, they were the elite. The big, huge government officials, the president, and everyone else. They had their doomsday bunkers. They were the lucky ones. But even with that, there are now only about just over 100 of us left. This world is in ruins. This world is no way anywhere near the world I read about in history like it was before World War III started. 10 minutes later, Barry exited the bunker to see what the world looked like, and what he saw was a city in wreck and ruin. Suddenly he had another blackout. He could see himself talking to an elderly man. The man spoke. "I will do this for you, Barry, as I don't have much time to live with my crippling disease. Once you're in the bunker and safe and frozen, I will detonate the biggest nuclear missile this world has ever seen." Barry suddenly snapped out of his flashback. The man was standing next to him. This city you were looking at was built about 195 years ago. There were about 10,000 survivors in the bunkers then, just after World War III ended. But unfortunately, not many are left. And unfortunately, people aren't in a rush to bring new life into this world. Would you blame them? By the way, Barry, what made you decide you wanted to get frozen until the year 2220? Barry couldn't tell the real answer, so just said, "I can't remember." My name is Stephanie. I got kidnapped when I was 8 years old, and now I'm 18. But the thing is, I managed to escape my captors. They were basically my mom and dad for 10 years, but they treated me like I was dirt. Mom just got drunk and high every night, and my dad did the same when he wasn't beating up on my mom. I am lost and found personified. That day I walked up to my home, I felt a mixture of happiness that I was home and sadness about missing 10 years with my parents. When I first knocked on the door, I recognized my mom's face, but noticed there were 10 years of strain and worry on her face. I felt a pang of guilt knowing it was over me, but it wasn't my fault. I was just a kid, and kids go missing every day. It isn't their fault, of course. My mom asked me could she help me with anything, thinking I was a stranger. I said, "Mom, it's Stephanie." My mom gave a shocked look as soon as I said it, but a couple of minutes later we spoke in the living room for what felt like hours. I was tired. All I wanted to do was fall asleep. Then the next day, an FBI agent called to the house. He wanted to speak to me. I didn't want to speak to anyone. I just wanted to curl up in a ball and fall asleep for weeks. The FBI agent said to me, "Hi, Stephanie. I just have a few questions. I want to ask you about who had you for 10 years. And why now? What made you leave now?" I felt angry at the question and said, because I couldn't other times. They had me locked up in a house. I didn't go to school. I didn't go out. I was inside all of them years thinking I'd never come out. When I came out, I felt like the sunlight was going to blind me, as I wasn't used to the sun. They kept me in a room with boards on it. I could watch TV. I read my dad's books. That's why I could read, because that's the only schooling I ever had in the 10 years. The FBI agent stopped me and asked, "Your dad?" I said, "That creep who kidnapped me. He asked me to call him Dad." The agent then said, "Was there a woman with your dad who kidnapped you? And had they any other kids of their own, or like in your case, had been kidnapped?" I said no. I just remember a man and a woman kidnapped me when I was 8 and told me to call them Mom and Dad. The agent said to me in a way I knew he was trying to make me feel like he was my friend, "Okay, Stephanie, I know this is very hard for you, and I know you must be so tired from all you went through, but could you please tell me about the day you were kidnapped? Try to include every detail, please." It was a Friday night. I know because the man who told me to call him Dad kept shouting about his high school football team winning. Before you ask me their name, I forget, but I just know that it was a Friday night. Friday night lights and all. I was coming home from my friend Lucy's house. It was about 5 p.m. and a man pulled up in a car and told me that my mom, my real mom, asked him to pick me up. I found it strange knowing I just lived 10 minutes down the road. I spent what seemed like hours telling the agent what happened and the description of the people that asked me to call them Mom and Dad. A week passed and I was settling into my old home. My parents were so happy to have me home. My mom told me that she spent years and years looking for me and put up missing posters all over town. I felt it strange after a few days that neither was asking for a DNA test. I was hoping they wouldn't, but I still felt surprised. It usually took just a few weeks, in some cases only a few days. I had to up and leave from pretending to be a family's long lost daughter, and then up and leaving before that damn DNA test ruined it. That day I left, there was no man that asked me to call me Dad. When I was 8, I just had enough of the teachers and social workers trying to tell me I was crazy for attacking the damn kids in school. They were so annoying anyway. They made me so angry I bit them. It was when I ran away and did what I did I could really express my emotions, but no one would accept them. It's not that I was able to stay around any family long enough for them to even notice my odd behaviour. I used to check out social media pages and missing children sites and get all the information I needed to pretend to some grieving parents I was their long lost daughter. If only they didn't bother with that damn DNA test, then I wouldn't have had to run away. I would have given them hope, and hope is good, right? There's nothing wrong with hope. But one night I was down in the woods, and there was this guy I was making out with. It was a perfect chance for me to indulge in my favourite pastime, so I bit him in his neck and tasted his blood. As I was sucking his blood, I could see the new man I chose to pretend was my dad standing in front of me. He wasn't shocked, he just stared right at me. I was wondering what the hell is he not shocked at me biting into a guy's neck and sucking his blood. Then he said, You should really hide your diary better. I read all about what you do to poor families pretending you're their daughter. But I have some good news for you. You think you're lying to us, but of all the odds you chose us. You did. And Stephanie, you thought you were lying to us, like all those other parents. But Stephanie, you're not lying. This time I am so happy to tell you, you are my daughter. You're home, Stephanie. I knew I didn't need a DNA test, because you see, I am like you. I am a vampire.